Tottenham have done it again. 2-0 up against Chelsea, our London rivals. And what do? We end up losing the game 4-2 under Ange Postecoglou. Another frustrating result on top of other frustrating results, one after the other. It's just not becoming, it's becoming normal for Spurs, isn't it, under Ange Postecoglou? And you all know I'm a massive fan of Big Ange, but at the moment, it's not good enough. It's not good enough whatsoever. So today on the Sonny Talk Spurs YouTube channel, I'm going to be answering the question, is Jamie Carragher right about Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur? And before we go any further, if you are new to the Sonny Talk Spurs channel, leave your likes, leave a subscribe and hit the notification bell, and also leave your comments down below. Do you think Ange Postecoglou should be sacked? So yeah, following the game, obviously lots of reaction from Spurs fans, from rivals, just the usual rhetoric that's followed most of these results. And first of all, on the game, what did I think of it? I thought we started quite well. I thought we started quite strong. But I just knew, you just have that feeling in your being that something's going to go wrong, something's not going to happen. And that second half, I mean, it's just not good enough. No changes, just really late in the game, and you saw the game was slipping away and Chelsea was growing in the ascendancy, but it was poor. It was really, really poor. And I just think, it's results like this that could cost Ange Postecoglou his job at Tottenham Hotspur, because Daniel Levy will see this and he doesn't want, as soon as people start calling out Levy, he fires from the hip and will pull the trigger and he'll sack him. Even though I personally still think we shouldn't sack Ange Postecoglou, Daniel Levy will act, but who do we even bring in? You have to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on that one. But as the title of the video suggests, I'm going to be reacting to some of the opinions that were said by Kelly Cates, Paul Merson, Jamie Redknapp, and more importantly, Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports' Super Sunday coverage. So without further ado, it was split into two main sections, on Daniel Levy and on Ange Postecoglou. So we'll start with what he had to say on Daniel Levy.
You say, Kelly, about if you're doing well and you're winning 2-0, why would you change? I get that. You wouldn't change if things were going well. But it wasn't going that well in the first half. They were 2-0 up, but the amount of times a Chelsea player picked that ball up in space in midfield and was running at the defence, you felt the game was going that way. And that's what I'm saying. When you can see Chelsea, Lavia, how many times did Lavia play one round the corner? And you just like a little, as an experience, but it's not go on the edge of your own box. Might be a little, okay, just let's go 10 yards deeper. Let's just take this thing out of this. We don't need to be creating chances. We need to stop Chelsea creating chances with 2-0 up. That's what I'm talking about. What you're saying there, Jamie, I agree with you. I was thinking about this. They've changed so many managers, and we talk about Daniel Levy a lot. What Daniel Levy's done here in terms of the training ground and this, for me, I don't think there's a better stadium in the world. I haven't been to Real Madrid's new one, but this, I think, is as good as anything in the world. And that's been Daniel Levy's strength in terms of a really stable football club. The stadium he's delivered the training ground. It's probably some time for somebody else to come in, because to not win a trophy in that period of time with the managers they've had, they've never really gone out of the way in the transfer market. They spent decent money without blowing other teams out the water. The wage bill's always one of the smallest, and you're never going to get the best players. So it might be a time for actually Daniel Levy, who I've been a supporter of, because you look at the actual work that he's done. But now that work's done in terms of a stadium and a training ground, someone else needs to be in charge of this football club.
He's had 14 managers in 23 years. That's nearly a manager every year and a half. So that's something that has to change.
He's not making the right decision if he's changing managers that
That's
often.
what I'm saying, and it's never him.
This team, and with the front three, if it's going to be Johnson, Son, and Solanke up front, every time they go 2-0 up, they should never lose that lead. Never. Not with that front three, because if you sit back and you count, they've got the perfect counter-attacking team. You play it into Solanke, he was holding it up for fun, he was causing problems. Teams have got to take a chance. And when you've got the pace of Son and Johnson, I mean, they should, any time they go 2-0 up, you should be the worst team to play against in the league. You should be sitting there thinking, this is game over, really. This is game over, because when we start taking a chance, they're going to pick us off for fun with their pace, like they did against Man City at times. But it didn't happen. They just go. It's like playing at Power League or goals. It's just like that. It's end to end. It's like basketball.
Can you legislate for the two decisions that led to the penalties? Is there anything a manager can do about that?
No, he can't. He buys the players. You know,
I'm not sure he does.
brings them. Or
he didn't. I don't think he bought Basuma. He didn't buy Basuma or Sarr.
All right, but they're playing. They're playing.
Yeah.
They're playing. So he trusts them. They play. Then you've got to rely. They're playing in the best league in the world. This is the best league in the world. Everybody loves it. You've got to be a top player to play in the Premier League, they say. So do top things. You know what Sarr's doing. I wouldn't expect my boy to do it. He's 9. I'd sit there if my boy was doing that. I'd sit there and think, how could you ever be a footballer if you're doing that and you're 9? And, you know, they're playing in the top league. You know, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but when you're getting coached, they've got to be coached still, these players. You know, you can't just go, oh, they're Premier League players, so go on then, go and play. You've got to get people's discipline. You've got to tell them where to go. Honestly, I was watching today. I'm 56. I could have probably played sometimes in that game where Levy was playing. He was coming in, I was just flicking around the corner. And Palmer's there, and Enzo Fernandez is there, and no one's near him. They're within 20 yards of space, and they're the two players that are the most danger. Lavia's not the danger. Even though he's a good player, he's 60 yards away from the goal. Them two are the dangers. Why? Why is that not happening?
But when you talk about things players do, you can't legislate for crazy challenges like that. Like, you're right, Merce. But Ramiro gets injured. Whether that he got the injury, he's doing a Cruyff turn in his box.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if your manager is onto you on a daily basis, that's not acceptable. You don't do that. Son on the edge of his own box just before half time, trying to play a little too. These things that players do, I think Porro did something similar on the edge. These are things that the manager asks for or looks for, because you wouldn't do it. We don't see other teams do it to the extent that Tottenham do it at times. So that's when I go back to that. But I just want to go back to Daniel Levy, because when you look at, say, Man United, City and Chelsea, really, in terms of what they spend, it's difficult for Spurs to compete with that. Liverpool have probably done it in a clever way, but I go back to Arsenal. Now, we associate Arsenal with winning titles in the past with Arsene Wenger, but they've gone a long time right now. For the last 5-6 years, Tottenham and Arsenal have always been in a fight for the top 4 positions. Arsenal have jumped to a team challenging for the title for this season, the 3rd season running. But we almost expect that because it's Arsenal. How did they do that if they were competing with Spurs for so long? But we always expect that of Arsenal. Nobody in this country ever expects Spurs to challenge for the title, because we think it's a mentality thing. And that's why I go back to the top of the club. How can Arsenal have done it without going crazy, you know, spending-wise, and Tottenham couldn't have done it when they were competing for so long? You know, that to me...
You mentioned the stadium. Can they compete in the transfer market if they're also building a stadium and renovating rebuilding the training ground?
in a different way, Kelly. I think that's what they want to do. Like, even in the summer, I think the manager's probably thinking to himself, I need a bit of help here in the transfer window. Yeah, I'll get Solanke, that's fine. But then he brings a lot of young players in that, yeah, they might be good for the future. But when you're a manager and you know this is a chairman that gives you a year and a half on average, you need players for now. You know, and that's the difference. So when you talk about the difference between Arsenal and Tottenham, so the big example, or the most important example I would give you is Arsenal went out and they got Declan Rice. We need that player in our midfield to give us something. Would Spurs do that? I cannot remember the last time Spurs bought a ready-made star.
Well, they spent 134 million in the summer, but would you say that they spent it particularly?
I mean, I think so. I like Solanke. I do, and I think he's going to improve. But as a manager, what you need, how do we make that jump into the top 4? Is you need good characters. You might need a little bit of experience. You don't necessarily want young players that are going to... You need them for now. You've got to go and get top 4. You know you're on borrowed time. He was under a little bit of pressure last year as the manager. So this year, give me a couple of players that I need. I think I can't think off the top of my head, probably the biggest player they bought for a while was Ndombele, maybe 60-odd million pounds, but that was still a bit of a risk. You know, there's not been too many, and I think that's been the difference between Arsenal and Tottenham, where they've gone, right, we need Declan Rice. Doesn't matter what it cost us, we're going to bring him into this building and make us a better team. And that's why Arsenal have made a jump and Tottenham have gone the other way.
But every other big team, I know we class it as the top 6. I know some people don't like that. But the other 5 teams, we always associate them and expect them to win. And eventually, they'll find a way to win. Tottenham finds a way to lose. You never believe for any second that they're going to win a trophy or they're going to win a big game or they're going to get across the line. Even if Liverpool are having a bad few years, you know they'll come back. United have had a torrid time for the last few years, but they still win the cup final last year and the year before. And that's not, for me, it's just about Erik ten Hag. That's about a DNA, a mentality, a club, a belief that they can win big games. You never, ever get that feeling that Tottenham will do anything.
16 years since Tottenham have won a trophy. Could they win the Carabao Cup this year, for example?
People, there's obviously a debate with Tottenham fans. There's either top 4 or win a trophy. For right now, Tottenham need to win a trophy.
Can't they do both?
Yeah, they
Merce
can.
thinks they can win the Carabao Cup.
I'm not saying they can't. Of course, that is more important than anything else. They have to win a trophy because that's the stick that they always get beaten with. If they win a trophy this year, then that gives them the confidence and the belief that then, yes, if they can get top 4. But they need to change the history of this club because for too long they have, like Jamie said, they've had that attitude about them where they've just not been successful. You always feel like they're going to let you down. Whereas if they go and win a trophy this year, it will just give Ange a bit of confidence, it'll give them a bit of breathing space, and then possibly you could get top 4. They've got Man United here, it was at quarterfinals. Of course they can win it. It's not going to be easy because people might say that's not a big trophy to win. If you look at the winners over the last 10, 15 years, it's either been Man City, Liverpool or Manchester United. I think Swansea were the last team that we're probably surprised by to win it. But I just feel right now that is more important than getting top 4. The owners here might not want it as much, but it's definitely better for the fan base and the club and for the players for sure.
And for those of you who saw my recent video where I was questioning whether Ange Postecoglou will be sacked or not by Spurs, I went more in on Levy. I think this result is, these results in the more recent times. When we win, I think Ange Postecoglou takes a lot of credit and, we thoroughly deserve it. But today, I feel like, after that result, a lot of it still falls at the feet of Daniel Levy. Not backing a manager, not giving what that manager needs. Having to force Romero and Van de Ven to play the game, even though they're probably not fully fit, but we've got not much choice in the game. Fraser Forster made some big saves, but Vicario would have probably saved that third one, for example. It just really, you got to question Daniel Levy's incentive as a Tottenham manager, a Tottenham owner, I should say, because why is he in this game? Is it for money? He's not. He could do so much more with this team. We've got a lovely stadium, lovely training ground, all these events, all these revenue streams, and none of it goes back into the football club. It's just becoming an absolute disgrace. And if he was to sell it now, he'd get a pretty price for it because it's got so much going for it. He just needs someone who's going to back it. I mean, last week there was talk of Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys potentially investing. That's gone quiet. And I have to agree with Carragher. What is keeping him at the club? This team, this club, needs investment and someone who's going to care about it. And at the moment, there's just no belief. And, we might be good for FFP and PSR, but what's the point? What's the point? There's just no ambition. And I always believe, it starts from the top and trickles down. Levy's attitude, 20 years at a club and you've won one trophy. It's just not good enough. And you expect the likes of Pochettino, Conte, Mourinho and Ange Postecoglou to work miracles. It's just not possible. And it trickles down to the players. It's just it's frustrating. It is frustrating. But the second clip was the same guys reacting to Ange Postecoglou in general.
But is there a comparison to be made between the other game that they've lost from 2-0 up this season, which is the one against Brighton?
They capitulated completely in that game. I think they were better than that. That midfield was wide open in that Brighton game. It's just more a case of when you look at Tottenham, if you're having a bad run or you need something to go your way, they're just the perfect team to play. If you're Ipswich coming in, not won a game all season, you feel like you're going to get a chance, you end up winning. Crystal Palace not won a game all season, who do you want to play? Tottenham? And that's just a feeling you always get when you see them. You weren't sitting here with any conviction that they were going to hang on to a 2-0 lead because of how open they play. There are times when they're a joy. When you see them play against Man City and they win 4-0 and we go, right, this could be the turning point. But then they just disappoint you again. And you cannot play that open. Now, I will say there were changes from the Bournemouth game, so I watched it, where the keeper was playing out from the back and it was all the time. Today, they didn't do that. They almost took that risk away from him, which made them marginally better. But you can't say that they ever look comfortable today. They're just too easy to play against. And the risk he took with the two centre-backs didn't pay off because you've lost Van de Ven maybe if he's hurt his hamstring again from what it normally is another 6 weeks. I mean, that's a risk that just wasn't worth taking.
He said he didn't think it was too bad, but we don't.
Yeah, but you don't want
it
for a player and your responsibility is to make sure that you're taking risk. And I know you want to play, but I don't think they'd have played him if he wasn't under the pressure that he was. But that's sometimes decisions you have to make because you're the manager. Whereas normally, if you was on a good run at full, you might say, look, let's hold you back a bit longer. But because of the run, he doesn't want to obviously start the game with Archie Grant Dragerson, so he had to do something. But it certainly didn't pay off today.
I mean, you said they never looked comfortable in the game. At half-time, Jamie, when you were on the gantry, Paul was saying at 2-1 down, he was absolutely confident that Chelsea would come back to win this game and win it relatively comfortably. Is that a sort of built-in flaw to Tottenham? Is that something that they accept as part of the way that they set up playing?
Well, the manager accepts it because he keeps telling us he won't change. Now, he said something in his interview there about how well they played. And he said, when we're at our best, we still cause teams problems. I can't imagine any manager I played for Liverpool, if we conceded 4 in a game, would say in the interview that we played well. It almost feels like the defenders, and I know it will be, of course it will be, but at the forefront of his mind, almost listening to that interview, he thinks, we did well today. We scored 3 against Chelsea, we had other chances, we looked dangerous. Now, if you play that way, at times you will have that result away at Man City. But you'd have the bad results as well that you had today when you're 2-0 up or the one at Brighton. And I've never been able to get my head around certain managers at times who say, we play a certain way and we will never change. And I always felt like this started with Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, this idea that we're Barcelona, well, wherever we go, whoever we're playing against, whatever pitch we're on, whether it's the new camp or away from home, we play our way. OK, that was the best team I've ever seen. But when I hear coaches say it now, I'm scratching my head. Pep Guardiola felt like he had to change his Manchester City team, who were winning leagues every season, to win the Champions League. He felt he weren't strong enough defensively. So he went for bigger, he almost put centre-backs at full-back. Now, this idea that you can't change is just alien to me. And I'm watching the Tottenham players do things in the game. Son did something on the edge of the box a minute before half-time. Now, you might do it after 20 minutes if you 1-0 up, you play a certain way. The game state dictates how you play at times. Not all the time, because you have a way of playing. But if you go away to a tough away ground, you don't play the same as you would do playing out from the back at home against a team near the bottom. So
is this about managing risk? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
rather than being attacking or defensive? Or
there's this idea of this pure game and this football game, and the Tottenham fans think they've got their Tottenham back. You won't win anything. You won't challenge doing anything. I wake up every morning and I have the sunshine. I want to put a pair of trainers on, shorts and a T-shirt on. We all want to do that. But if it's raining, you put your coat on. That it is. You know, you can't have this idea about we're just going to do this and go and play our way of playing football. It won't work. And if it doesn't change, he won't be here next season.
So if you look at their defeats this season, all 7 of them have been by 1 goal, even if they're high-scoring games like the one today. They've been by 1 goal. Their 6 wins this season have been by, or 5 of the 6 of them have been by 3 or more goals. So is there a sense that it is risky, but that the risk is balanced towards success?
Towards what? What are they going to do?
Well, I'm saying if they win well, and then they lose narrowly when they lose, does that mean that there is an argument for that way of playing?
No, because when it's going well for them and they're winning football matches, they all want the ball. They all want it and they're all playing. It'll be nice. When it's tough and it's a roll up your sleeves and it's a big derby game like this, or at Brighton when Brighton get on top, they haven't got that. And then people start hiding. When they're winning games, like they will go and destroy teams at times because everybody wants the ball. It's when it gets hard. It's like when it gets there. There was a couple of players that I didn't see anybody like in the end. I mean, that just covered over the cracks the last goal. That was a right result for them, 4-3, because 4-2 from 2-0 up. I just don't see it. I don't see it with Tottenham, and that's my problem. If they're 2-3-0 up, oh yeah, they'll go on and they'll get you another one and they'll all be coming short and they'll be playing 1-2s and popping it. But when it's a tight game or they go behind, I don't see that. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't one of them players who was like, come on, let's go.
You showed bravery in getting the ball.
I wanted to get the ball. I never hid. I'd always be one of them, even if I weren't playing well. I want to get on the ball. I don't see that here. And that was one of the problems. I don't know what the lads think, but that's one of the problems I see.
I watched it. If you look at, there's certain things when you look at teams that we all want our teams to be. Now, everyone in football wants to play from the back. Yeah, Tottenham do that, which is fine. We all want our teams to press from the front. That's the modern way of playing. But they find themselves 2-0 up, and they still want to play exactly the same way. There's nothing wrong with just retreating for a 5 or 10 minute period, someone on the pitch, maybe a message from the manager. I said in commentary after about 25 minutes, this is one of the quickest games I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. It was just end to end. And it's a great entertainment, but if you're Tottenham, you've gone 2-0 up. There's nothing wrong with just taking the sting out of the game and make Chelsea just make passes in midfield, round the back, going nowhere. And you can hit them on the counter-attack. And then maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, then you go back to pressing high, or you start the second half really aggressive. This idea that you play the same way from minute 1 to minute 90 is just, it's not right, it's not football.
And there are three players here, you know, who've all played at the top level, who are all saying the same thing. You go 2-0 up and you slightly change the way that you play in order to protect that lead. So just to play devil's advocate, why, if you're playing a way that gets you 2-0 up, do you make changes?
I think that's just where you use your experience, you use your football know-how, and you just make sure that you fill in at the right time. But the problem is, if you're going to play in a way where you're going to bring one of your right backs into midfield and you're going to vacate and leave space, it doesn't ever feel like they're going to have a plan B to just, let's make sure that let's win this game 2-0. That's not easy in the modern game, because the game is so exciting, it's end to end, and that's how it gets that feeling. But with Tottenham, I just feel when they haven't got the ball, you always feel like there's a player that's going to be on if the counter-attack. And that happens so often today. That happens every time you watch Tottenham. Now, when I look at the players, now, is that Ange's fault that you get your two defensive midfield players do something that's so ill-disciplined? He hasn't got remote control that he can control his players and make them do things like that. But you still have to take responsibility. If you're the manager and your team is so open and you say you don't want to change, that's where it's fundamentally wrong. But for a Tottenham fan, they had Conte, was pragmatic. They had Mourinho, didn't work. They had Nuno, didn't work here. And now you've gone the complete opposite scale where, for Tottenham fans, for 10, 15 games last season, they thought, this is it, we found it. This guy's going to make us play beautiful football, expansive, we're going to win. And it hasn't. Now you've gone gone one extreme to the other. So, and it feels like we've said the same things for the last 10 years of coming to watch Tottenham. I just don't know really which way they're going to go next. Because if you sack him, then where else do you go?
And yeah, it's hard to not, like, you know, after that result, I question Ange Postecoglou as well. You know, I want him to do well. I want him to achieve a lot of this football club. But without, you know, without a clear direction and, you know, it's becoming the same formula most weeks, which is very frustrating. I hate, you know, I hate that, you know, I'm not calling him out here but I have to just, you know, go with what I've seen in front of me. We went all in that first half and then just nothing really comes off the back of it. You know, we were getting overpowered in midfield. The defence couldn't handle it as soon as Romero got injured and Van der Ven, you know, letting people on the edge of the area, mistakes for penalties and stuff like that, which is not Ange Postecoglou's fault, but, you know, just a lot of these players, I don't think they can do the system. I don't think they can play all these games, you know, 3 games a week or whatever it is. I think they really, really struggle, which is obviously annoying. But, yeah, I just don't know where we go from here. Because, you know, the Christmas schedule is not going to get easier. Games will come thick and fast. And it just becomes a worry, doesn't it, for, you know, a team that we just don't know where we are right now. Look, can Ange Postecoglou win us a trophy? I think he could achieve stuff with us, but it's not good enough. And we started so well because, you know, Solanke was in the game and Johnson, and they were creating a lot, and Son. But then as the game went on, Kulusevski as well, it just petered out. And it was almost like we were the away team and we were, you know, chasing our tails. And when you go 2-0 up like that, you should not be losing 4-2. And I know there was 2 penalties in that and all that, but it's not good enough. And, you know, the changes were late. Timo Werner offers nothing. It's just it's a frustrating watch. Like, it's entertaining. Like, the first half was really entertaining, but you sort of knew as soon as Sancho made it 2-1, you can just see this. You've seen this script as a Spurs fan a million times before. But yeah, I was a bit lost for words after that. And, you know, my late reaction is because, you know, I was at home at the weekend watching it with my dad, and we both had the same sort of conversation after this, saying, like, what's going to happen next? My dad thinks Ange has got not long left, and I don't think he has either. Not because I want to see him sacked. I don't think I'm not the fan of hounding a manager out of a club, but there comes a time where you just know Levy's going to act. What Levy does after this, I do not know. I have no idea what he's going to do, who he's going to appoint if he does. It just becomes really, really confusing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. reacting to some of the Super Sunday moments. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Leave your likes, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, up the Spurs, but, let's see what happens.